Ogden. I'm here until mid-August, and I'm on site, and I'd like to kind of learn about the work that you guys are doing. These are some of the things I'm going to cover in my talk today. I should really be covering mostly number 4, the artist path, because I'm here as an artist, but what I want to kind of emphasize to you is that other things come to play in who I am and the work that I do. Want to for sure thank you guys here at the research station. I want to thank Open Air for letting me come here. I really was hoping to get this assignment because Flathead Lake is important to me personally. I used to come here as a kid. We used to camp here, and my dad ended up owning some property here, and it was a special place for me to come visit. And I wanted to kind of get a little emotional with you up front, because when I say that this is a special place, to me, I'm talking about a place that I can feel at home, and I can feel strong, and I can feel that I can stand up and speak my truth. And so I'm reminded of the nature writer and humanitarian Barry Lopez, who in his essay called The Rediscovery of North America, he comes up with this concept called the querencia, or he mentions it in his writing. And the querencia is that place. It's a geographical place for you. The place on earth where you do stand up and you feel strong and connected and totally at home. And when Barry Lopez was a kid, he grew up in California. He had a really tough childhood. I'm not going to go into it, but it was very rough. And the only person, or the only place that he could turn to was nature. And he went there to kind of become who he was and to really feel important and strong and all of those things. And so that's where I'm coming from. And I hope that some of you guys can kind of think where that place is for you. It could be a place by the creek. It could be at the top of a certain mountain. It could be in your grandma's kitchen. It could be behind home plate in the stands. You know, it could be anywhere. Even if somebody has come and paved it over and built a mini mall on top of it, you've still got it. It's still yours, right? It's your querencia with a Q. And so I also want to really emphasize to you that I'm lucky to be here. I feel like I should be buying a lottery ticket at this point for both my association with Open Air and with you all. And so I wanted to let you know that I am interested in what you guys are working on. And then I want to integrate that into my own narrative as well. And kind of the most important thing for me is that, the last few years have been rough for all of us. Me personally, I was teaching dual platform. I was, what was I doing? I was finishing my master's, and I had some other things going on, and it was kind of a perfect storm. I feel a little exhausted, and so I was able to finagle a sabbatical for myself, and this is part of it. So you're my inaugural place to do that. So what I do is I work with upcycling paper. I use magazine paper that comes to me in my mailbox. I use security envelopes. I use junk mail and magazines, things that I subscribe to. And it's just kind of my personal stream. And then obviously some people do give me things as well, but I don't want all your stack of National Geographics, but because those are easy to get. But anyway, that's what I do. And I cut it up and I look for kind of sensory elements. I'm looking for color. I'm looking for implied patterns and textures, and I'm going to reconfigure those and cut them up with scissors and just kind of re-puzzle them together. So my story, I told you that I used to come here as a kid. I grew up in Montana. part of a big family. And my parents grew up here, and my grandparents grew up here, and my children have grown up here. And so these are my grandparents. This is as far back as I go in the state. And this is my grandmother, Kathleen, to your left. And she's 9 years old. It's 1925. She's in Cascade, Montana, which is by Great Falls. And then my grandfather, that's his first day of school. And he doesn't want to go, right? And so here's a little bit bigger image of that. These are reimagined from old black and white photographs. And so that was kind of weird. They're very grainy, they're small, and they're sentimental to me, but I was just trying to imagine, like, what do these places look like in color? I do remember being in Cascade, and it was kind of prairie. It was prairie habitat and working lands. And so that's what I tried to put into this, into that image of my grandmother. And this was one of the happiest times of her childhood. She was the oldest of several children. And then my grandfather, on the other hand, was the youngest of several boys. And so his mother, Carrie, is marching him off to school, and he wants to stay home, and she's just not having it. I think this photograph is kind of unusual for its time period because it's not posed. It's real life, and it's to me that's what was interesting about it. Plus, it was sort of like a little bookend to the other one for me. I didn't realize what I was looking at. I guess there was a lake in there, and it took me weeks of doing this collage to kind of realize what I was looking at. And I think that you guys can relate to that. Maybe you're trying to figure out what it is that you're looking at underneath that microscope, and you're not always sure. And so anyway, I also do things from my own photographs. So if you see me taking photographs, I might use it later after my time here. But this was kind of a great day that I wanted to remember. My kids are in the middle. We went on a sledding party, and the kids had this epic snow fight that day. And then when they were all done, they just crawled in the back of this pickup truck, and they were just like snarfling down their picnic. And it was just, when I was doing this piece, I was just trying to figure out, like, well, what do things really look like? What does it really look like to peer through a couple panes of glass and to see like those, the mirror and the window and all of those things? And I just kind of, with my work, I just kind of like cut out these on paper brush strokes, and it's like a very slowed down painting. And I kind of reconfigure them to tell the stories that I want to tell. This was my first artist in residence. This is my second one, by the way, just as an artist. I've done it as a teacher a couple of times. Twin Lakes is a subalpine lake that's up by Wisdom, up in the Big Hole Valley. And it is shaped like an hourglass. And in this lake, there's like this kind of a rare water lily. That's my husband on the right, my daughter in the middle, and my neighbor boy. And my husband's a botanist. He specializes in native plants and seeds, and he had a permit to collect in the Beaverhead National Forest. And so he was looking for things for the forest, for them. And he came upon these little water lilies that are kind of only there at Twin Lakes and also in Sealy Lake as well. And so, so while I was there for my artist in residence, I got to bring a few folks along, and it was really kind of unique. This is some more work that I did from my artist in residence time period. I was really interested in, when you're married to a botanist and you go on a hike, you're always looking at the ground. And if you're married to a birder, you're looking the other way. But this was my piece that I did for the Wilderness Association. This is part of their permanent collection. And I think I was part of their second cohort. And it's this little slough that kind of runs through the campground by this Forest Service cabin where I was staying. And then this was kind of also on the footpath in the area there. And it's part of a series called Looking Up, Looking Down. And Lilies Along the Divide is because Artside along the divide was like and you could do your art anywhere along the Continental Divide, and it was going to be okay, good to go for them. This is how the sausage is made, you guys. It's very painstaking, and so I go from my photographs, I draw them large, and then I fill them in, and it's kind of a contemplative time for me, and it's I have a pretty cluttered lifestyle. I've got a lot of people in my life, and it's nice for me to just kind of like clear out the kitchen table, ignore everybody for 3 weeks, and just get to it. Anyway, I used to do collage in college. It was my collage education. And so I was just, but after college, I kind of had this painting degree. Didn't have a collage degree, I had a painting degree, and I would also do assemblage, which is collage, only 3D. And, but I was just active enough. I got married, I started teaching, and I kind of, like, my art took a backseat. And, but then I was just active enough to be invited to a few things, and I was invited to a show called Cattle Call, and I live in a rural area. And I have to confess that I kind of wasn't interested in cows, but I was interested in like being in a show. But I went with my friend Mary Rodriguez, who teaches at my school, and she still has this family ranch, and she let me come photograph her cows, and I was like, these are great. And then I really wanted to do collage again. I just had this urge to do it. So then after I did the cattle, I did some more, and these are not all from the same place. These are from different places near where I live, in the Bitterroot Valley. And so, and they're just kind of like these funny little visual challenges for me. Like this one here was from the Huggins Sheep Ranch, which is south of Hamilton. And I just wanted to kind of figure out like how could I differentiate melting snow with lamb's wool. And so what I did here, this is like ice cream, a scoop of ice cream, you can see that, and this is lace, and again, this is coming from catalogs and magazines and things like that. And so this one here, this was a little bit more of kind of a portrait. It is a portrait of Zuni and Sunny, these two horses that belong to my friend Tina. But Tina was going through some stuff at that time, and this is her mother's horse, and this is her horse from when she was a teenager. And the thing about it is that her mom was sick at that time, and she was dealing with cancer, and it was just kind of like it was a way for me to kind of just stick with my friend and just kind of like be empathetic and to talk about it without talking about it in a way. And so this was kind of part of their story that I was fortunate to be part of. There is an audience for paper mache. I didn't learn to do paper mache as a kid. I learned it as an art teacher. And I really enjoy doing it because it's physical and it goes more quickly, and people kind of like it. And so I just wanted to let you know, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. I'm gonna let you guys in on a big secret. There's a secret chamber somewhere inside of this alligator, and it's got something in there that needed to be put to rest, so I put it in there. Anyway, I want to tell you guys a little background on that, because if you were an Egyptologist and you were kind of in possession of a lot of crocodile mummies, you might actually like sacrifice one and kind of unwrap it and see what's inside. And I was delighted to find out that they used old papyrus paper, like from scrap heaps of scribes. And so kind of like me, person that uses upcycled paper, they kind of were making these mummy forms and then like wrapping them in a certain pattern. But if you x-rayed it on the inside, there really would be a crocodile skeleton, but it would just be like in this paper mache or papyrus mache kind of matrix. And what they were mostly interested in what was the writing, and it was just what you would think: grocery lists, letters, diary pages, and literature. And so it was like quite the find for Egyptologists. And so I was so delighted with that story that I just kind of made it my story. And I have to admit, I had like a bunch of love letters that I didn't know what to do with, and I didn't know how to throw them away, and I was just like, what should I do? So I thought of that idea. It doesn't have love letters in it, but it does have like my scrap heap is in there. And then, you know, where I live, there's a lot of coyotes singing, and so these little heads you might find on the wall at Four Ravens Gallery. And this was, you know, so mostly it's paper mache and collage with me, but this was a really cool project that I'm really proud to have been part of. The Bitterroot Land Trust had, on their staff, they had Steve Powell. And Steve Powell used to be in the Big Sky Mudflats. He has passed away, unfortunately, and they procured 9 acres to give to the city of Hamilton. And so I got to like do this drawing for this project, and I knew that this bird was like one of Steve Powell's it was kind of his totem animal, I guess you could say. And then these 2 kids from Hamilton High School, they just used the AutoCAD machine and they kind of routed this sign, and then GlaxoSmithKline Laboratory had a corporate volunteer day, and they just put the signs up. So there's one like this at the beginning of the park, and then there's another just like it at the end of the park, and it's just like, you know, it was fun to be part of that, and it was just a great way to honor Steve Powell. So these are some of the themes. I kind of started to really generate my art and get a little bit excited about it, and I started to put it into little card sets. And so this is the rest of my Family Farms series. And I want to point this out to you. This is Rocky, the rooster. And my friend Nancy names all her roosters Rocky. And so this is Rocky 3. Yeah. This is kind of a combination of, you've seen this and you've seen this, but this is like near my house. And these are from when I teach at the art museum in Missoula, the Missoula Art Museum, and I work with kids. And what I like to do is I like to bring kids to the source. And we had a day where we were doing gravity sculptures, and so we were stacking rocks. And you only get to use gravity as your glue. And then this one boy, he made like a frog mask while we were in the classroom and wanted to wear it by the creek, and he became the frog. It was just amazing. This is a close-up of that day, and this is at that moment where these kids are just like dialed in. They're just dialed into nature. And I said, would you look for some sticks and some rocks or some other things that you can lean together or stack and to make your own sculptures? And so they all of a sudden, they're just looking at this resource in a very different way. This is Rattlesnake Creek in Missoula at Greeno Park, and this is sort of a shallow area of the creek. I was already really moved by this picture. I think there's like something that's kind of timeless about it, and so that's what I was thinking when I named it. And these kids were just the best. It was so great to have them there. Another theme that I work with is the fox and the hedgehog. It's from that Archilochus quote, the fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing. And if you are, different animals have different survival strategies. And so the fox, maybe you identify with the fox, maybe you try different things. Sometimes you fail, sometimes you succeed, but you are creative, you have a lot of fun. You might be a little opportunistic. And so the hedgehog is more, inward. It plans ahead, and if a predator comes to it, it's going to play dead, right? It's a very effective strategy. It's the one strategy, right? And so that's what that quote is about, and it has sort of gotten a lot of people talking about it. Isaiah Berlin wrote a popular essay about it in the 50s, and like identifying who's more like a fox, who's more like the hedgehog, and you could kind of ask yourself that. There's these online societies right now where they have these long philosophical discussions. Anyway, my friend that I did that show with, we decided that we weren't done talking about it. So a few years later, we revisited it. We did a redux. And I was at the time, this was during the Clinton-Trump debates, and I was just kind of feeling a little weird about where the civil discourse had gone. It just didn't seem like civil discourse was there anymore. And I wanted to kind of look into that. And so I was looking at Aesop's Fables, who would have been sort of a contemporary of Archilochus. And the woodland animal theme, you know, it's kind of like these iconic animals. There's one of each character. And what I learned from reading Aesop's Fables is that the fox is not enemies. He's not enemies with the hedgehog as you might imagine, but they're actually neighbors. They can talk, and the hedgehog even tries to help the fox when the fox inevitably gets himself into a scrape. And so I liked that idea of having conversations in different ways together. So that's what this is part of. And my education philosophy is to get kids to the source, to use primary resources, and to just kind of interface art and other topics. And so this comes from the Kennedy Center CETA program, and it is what, if you know about Spark Arts Ignite Learning in Missoula County Public Schools, they bring teaching artists into the schools so that they can kind of enhance the learning that's being done by the teacher in the classroom. And I'm part of that. I'm part of Spark Arts as well. And to kind of like give you a little idea of what happens with my kids. This year, my fourth graders, we were learning about Adobe. In our area, in our county, is Fort Owen. It's one of the earliest non-native permanent settlements. And it was established by Father de Smet. He started the first Catholic church there, but then he moved his church a little bit to the south. And this land was bought by Major John Owen, who built this adobe fort. And it's kind of like, you know, we're not in New Mexico. It's, you know, adobe is pretty rare in the state of Montana. So, and this is from 1850 when this adobe fort was built. And they've been trying to identify the source of the wild clay that that was used to make the adobe bricks, which adobe is made out of. These bricks are made out of cow manure and sand and old clay, ancient clay. And so from a clay bank somewhere nearby. This is my man, Colton, who really was kind of into getting his hands in there. And I just love that whole component where we got to make adobe bricks, we got to touch those old 170-year-old bricks. And then you might not know this, but at Fort Owen, they're starting to do some archaeological digging. And so this was at the base of the wall of the East Barracks, and what they found were old beer bottles and animal bones and a really long fang. Don't know what it was yet. Okay, and this is me also getting my kids parallel with art. This was a wonderful exhibit by the contemporary, second generation contemporary Salish artist, Neil Ambrose Smith. His mom is Jean Fictasy Smith. And the Missoula Art Museum really, most of the stuff that's loaned out of their permanent archives are Native American, contemporary Native American work. Neil was really great. We got to live stream him into my classroom, and he was just, the kids loved him. And what was cool about his work is that you see it with the light on, you see it with the light off. It's different. He had 3D glasses for the kids to look at. And so I just want to show you the kind of experiences that I really want my kids to have, right? And then I'm quoting this Michelle Obama because I know that she really supports the arts, pairing the arts with public schools. And so that kind of influences some of the things that I get to do as a teacher. As a part of Forest for Every Classroom, the alumni group, we got to go on a dig at Two Medicine Dinosaur Center this is out in Shoto somewhere on somebody's property. And, you know, we were actually, you know, part of a dig. Up the hill, I found somebody's kneecap. And, but I didn't find anything in this area. It was really kind of cool, so that kind of translates into what we do in the classroom. And this is our state dinosaur, the Myosaurus. This is a cool picture that I took outside of the dinosaur center. I'm showing you this because, like, in the classroom and where we are working as artists, our job is to explore media. And through the media, we're exploring places that we may or not be able to visit. We can't go back in time, but we can try and piece things together, and we can imagine, we can use fiction and nonfiction books to kind of guide us. This is my classroom. This is how sometimes you have to get the heavy equipment out. These are some of my seniors. They're doing like bison marshalling. And this is our custodian. If you ever become a teacher in a public school, get to know the custodian, because they'll be there for you, and it's really nice. And we told through this whole bison unit, it was like an interdisciplinary unit with other teachers, we told the story of the walking coyote family. They took these bison calves out of the killing fields while bison were starting to be eradicated. Railroads are coming through, people are like shooting bison out train windows, wasting them. And then, you know, some of these calves were sort of left alone. And so this family, the walking coyote family, came in and they kind of took about 7 of these buffalo, and they they moved them over the mountains and into the Flathead Valley. And that is the nexus of the tribe at the National Bison Refuge in Moise. It's now under tribal management. And so it's just a way to kind of tell stories. We talk in the elementary, we talk a lot about numeracy and literacy. And so kind of more at the beginning of the year, we're just trying to figure out the alphabet and how to spell their names. And by the 100th day of school, which is a really big, you know, those of you that are like have celebrated the 100th day of school, it's a big deal in public schools now. This is from a story that we read, and this wolf is made entirely of the letters W, O, L, and F. And this is my girl Chloe, and she's dressed as a grandma to celebrate the 100th day of school. Right? Anyway, my older kids like to dress up as well. We do like tableau vivant, and these are, you might recognize some of these from Norma Rockwell, the 4 Freedoms. And the kids, I had them like become like, you're the director, you're the assistant director, you're the costumer, you're the props person, and they did it all themselves. And then it's like, the only rule is that if somebody casts you in this photograph, you have to be in it. And so the kids, even the shyest kid I ever had, agreed to do it. And so, and then these are my 7th graders. We're doing like these Baroque wigs and opera masks. So they like to do stuff like that. And just some other things. One of these that I want to show you, this young boy is holding, it's a beaver. It's a beaver that's got a parachute. And we're at the Wild Walk for the Wildlife Film Festival, and we are, they're gonna parachute these beavers into the Frank Church Wilderness. Do some of you guys remember that? Where they had like built up the beaver population, and this was in the 1950s. There's actually footage of this online. And so they like had these parachutes on boxes, and they like dropped them out of airplanes, and they just like busted open when they got to the ground, and then the beavers kind of like shook it off, and then they just kind of like crept off into their future. And they kind of created a water system in that area just naturally, because they were having trouble with that. We've done like a big ocean unit. These kids got together with learning about animals at an animal shelter that they could do portraits of. And these guys are just drawing still life of neckties. This is all of the neckties for the month of February for their band teacher, Mr. Deverstein. He's got a whole closet with like boxes with the months on them, and this is February. Why do I mention all this? It's because with art, we place the child inside their own experience. And so when we're doing the art, we're asking ourselves, who am I? Where do I come from? What do I like? And where am I going in the future? And these are some of my academic activities as a teacher that I kind of use to kind of supplement what I do in the classroom, and that kind of just keep me happy as an educator. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about the artist's path. So for me, because I identify so heavily as an art teacher, this is my art teaching career and this is my art career. And they're coming, it's a blind corner and they're about to crash. This is ham and eggs crashing into each other. And this was one of those moments where it was like, boy, I wish I didn't have to teach this week because I have to put these paper mache things into a gallery and they're not done yet. And so I had divine intervention. We had 2 feet of snow and I had like 3 snow days where I could like finish this show. And it was kind of funny because with this guy, I used those little glow-in-the-dark teeth that you get at Halloween, and I don't know if it was me or somebody else in the family, they came and they like saw these glowing green teeth in the dark, and it was kind of scary, I guess, while this was out. So these are some things that I've done to kind of, to become more the artist that I want to be. And the thing that I'm very excited about this. This has helped me a lot with understanding how to market myself. And I appreciate this because of the person that I am. Artmobile takes art, puts it on our truck, and travels to underserved communities. And so when I'm writing lessons, I'm talking about artists, but when they're writing lessons, they're talking about people like me that are in this show. And it's like they have formal conversations with kids because kids can really understand a lot by looking at art. And I think that's a really high purpose for my artwork, is to have kids see it and look at it, right? Here's a couple of other things. This is from that Looking Up, Looking Down series. This is it's kind of an icy time of year in the Bitterroot River. And this was kind of really hard to do, but it was very satisfying to do as well. And it was one of those times where I could just kind of push everybody away and just kind of make my sausage, as it is. And I don't expect you guys to read this, but my most recent show is called The Layers, and it's kind of based on a Stanley Kunitz poem where it's called The Layers, and he's kind of looking back at 50 years of his life as a poet, and he's lost a few friends along the way because he's aging, and he still feels the need to kind of move forward. It's a carpe diem kind of poem, and so I was sort of very inspired by that. And so just like me looking down into Flathead Lake and seeing the sky reflected and seeing the fishes down below and seeing the way that water holds light and seeing how it magnifies the bottom, not sure where the bottom of the lake is, not sure how cold it is, what kind of fish are those, and just like a contemplative time to just kind of like dive into that, go ahead and dive into that water and like face a new year, face a new challenge. And that's what I got out of Stanley Kunitz's work. This is my most recent work. It's on display at Art City. And I started to use ephemera. These are from Bitterroot Irrigation District tickets from the 20s. And this was kind of the first piece that I did from actually looking at real things and not a photograph. And so I was really happy with this one as well. So that's my talk. And this is my new website. If you want to get a hold of me, you can go through there. I also have business cards, and I remember Kelly had those open air things as well. So my business card is here, and that's my website, and that's my email, Yellow Kitchen Studio. So, any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, how big are your pieces usually? It must take like a lot of time.
They're like 18 by 24, quite typically. So they take a long time, but it's, the reason that I do that is I want to really make sure that I have like the details correct as they can be. You know, it's obviously it's subjective in some ways. There's some things that are not negotiable, but some things that are, like a cloud, that's negotiable, because no one's going to check your work on that. But,
Do you work on one at a time, or do you have multiple ones going on simultaneously?
kind of depends. I do try to work on, if I'm doing more than one, like those 2 cow ones that I did them simultaneously. Get tired of this one, work on that one. And you still have the same resources. So it kind of looks like it goes together.
That's sort of technical question. Do you work from like background into foreground, or just like right to left, or what? How do you do that with collage?
No, I just kind of, as I'm going through my paper resource, I'm kind of like, and I make a little pile, right? And then I pick them up and I start to like cherry pick or fussy cut those pieces. It's almost like a quilter that fussy cuts for the effect. Quilters really like my work. For some reason they go for it. And yeah, so I'm just kind of doing it. It's like kind of happenstance, some of it.
I'm curious about what you want to do at Flathead. Have you been inspired by anything? Do you have like a direction that you want to go? Is it too early to ask that question?
It's like I really am interested in the phytoplankton. And those of you that have spent real time with me, I so appreciate you guys, the time that you took to teach me, because I don't have a science background, and I would just love to, if anyone kind of has something that they feel would be like really spectacular of interest, that would be really nice. I do like the phytoplankton. I was really interested in the pink algae snow so far. So, yeah.
I'm Jennifer's sister, and I can just tell you that she already sent pictures of the phytoplankton. She could have sent pictures of the pink snow, she could, and I can already predict what's going to happen. So, it's a good.
There you have it.
Yay, I like that answer.
Are you aware of our paper recycling bins around here?
I am not.
In our break room in particular, there's bins full of magazines, newspaper. We have it sorted by type, and
Okay,
have at it.
will do.
Yeah,
I can do that.
I obviously collect from recyclables. Before I go to the transfer station, I'll check with you.
Okay, that stuff's gold-plated to me, for sure.
And you're welcome to take some for future projects.
For future projects. I see how you did that.
I just have a question of, you said that your most recent work was kind of the first one you had worked on that was, you weren't looking at a picture, but I've noticed that in your teaching methodology, a lot of that stuff happens with like experience, like you're trying to get your students to work with materials right in front of them as it's happening. Like, have you found that more fulfilling for yourself, or do you like working with pictures?
It takes so long to do these. Like the one that I showed you, the squash, the layers, that, squash doesn't go bad.
Right.
Like, but if you cut open an orange, it'll go bad eventually, flowers will wilt, all of that stuff. So you kind of are dependent upon, the frozen picture. But I really do think that there's value in being there. I don't know how to do that though.
Yeah, it also
like,
feels like for your type of work that is like, it's so painstakingly like cutting this, cutting that. Like it's not like you can set up your easel and
yeah, it's
sketch for a
painstaking.
day.
but it's not painful.
Yeah.
Like it's my way to kind of like, yes,
Do you ever do any like abstract type collaging, or is it mostly?
I have. Yeah, I have, and I'm not allergic to that idea, and I do think that you guys work with pretty abstract ideas. They're abstract to me. They may make sense to you, but they're really like hard to quantify in some way for somebody who's visual, and so I'm gonna try my best to try and do a little abstract stuff. Yes.
Would you like to see some stoneflies? Because they're pretty exciting.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'll be happy to meet with you. And I work on stoneflies a lot.
Oh, stoneflies?
Yeah,
Okay.
so show you those too.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Jennifer,
Kelly.
sorry. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship between your artwork and literature? Because I feel like that came up over and over again in your talk.
So if I am, well, you saw that as a teacher, I'm using stories all the time. And I wanted to, this might hearten you guys as scientists, but the kids that I work with, they like nonfiction as much, if not more than fiction. And I think that's really interesting. And, but yeah, I am inspired by poetry quite a lot. And when I learned about the Barry Lopez essay, where I was getting very choked up, and I'm sorry about that, but I learned about Barry Lopez's Querencia when I went to a workshop in Santa Fe, and it was through the National Endowment for the Humanities, and we were at the New Mexico History Museum, and we were really, it was, because the class was, there's a deep, deep history in New Mexico area that goes past their 100 years of statehood, and so, and who calls it home, and we were really focusing on that concept, and it was the big takeaway, because there were teachers from all over the country, and we were like, we all have our home place. We all have that, and we want to protect it, and we want people that come into it to treat it like home rather than a strange place, so that we can preserve what we have. So, is that helpful? Thanks for asking that question.
Thank you guys all for coming.